we also had a gig at Victoria Island, and we thought it was just gonna be a bummer gig, and it was one of the best shows we'd ever had. Kids were just so excited, they all knew the lyrics. We were 4 dipshits from Dallas, Texas, and there's these kids on this island in Canada that know every lyric to our songs. We're like, "We fucking love Canada," Just I love Canada. All majority of my favorite bands are from Canada, so it's just, I love going there. We haven't been there in a long time, the Toadies haven't, so I wanna go back badly, but
Yeah. It's nice up here. It's funny because I think that no matter where you live, there's always like this element of grass is greener. Because I was born and raised here, but I lived in Europe for 4 years. I actually lived in Rhode Island for 1 year,
mm,
and I've done a lot of US traveling, and, there are parts of Canada that I'm like, "Man, I wish we did it more like the US." And I'm sure that you have parts in the US where you're like, "I wish
yeah.
we did it more like, somewhere else." I just got back from, Arizona. It's my first time ever there, and I was
Oh,
like,
yeah,
I was shocked to find out how big, the city was. Where were we? We're in like, not in Phoenix and Scottsdale, but I guess the Phoenix area is so big now.
Mesa. Oh, it's huge. All of
Yeah,
that. There's Tempe Mesa, there's Phoenix. Phoenix is, I think, proper, and then there's, like, God, 2 or 3 huge suburbs right around
yeah.
it. And if you go in, I guess probably east, probably about maybe 100, 200 miles, there's, Flagstaff, which is basically just mountains. It looks like Seattle, you know? It's beautiful. Just a beautiful part of that state.
We
But
were there for we were there for a week, like the first
yeah,
week of, spring break with our kids and stuff, and I mean, I've been to lots of different spots in the US, and so I had a general idea of what to expect, but it was so clean, it was so, futuristic in a lot of ways. They had
yeah.
this amazing airport that was big and spacious, and then they had the tram, which was driverless. It was all kinda, like, robotic. People were lovely, very kind. I was
Yeah.
having so much fun with, like, airport security. It was just such a good experience.
Good, good. I'm glad. I really like Arizona. I like Phoenix. We're ending our tour in Phoenix, so I will be flying out of that airport with the quickness after 2 months,
Well,
flying the hell out of there.
that's a good place to start because when I was putting together my notes for today's chat, one of the things that I was thinking I was gonna end on would be like, "Okay, so new album's coming out in May, and now you're gonna be on the road for, like, 2 months supporting it,"
Yeah.
which, you're no stranger to it, but I was more interested in, like, as a guy with a background in martial arts and physical fitness and all that stuff, how hard is it for you to do those things when you're on tour, especially for, like, a long stretch?
Well, it it is and it isn't. It's, the thing with I used to do, taekwondo. So a while back when I was doing taekwondo, I asked my master and I said, I looked up a bunch of Kwoons, that's what you call the academy in Taekwondo, and I looked them up in each city, and I had, like, a spreadsheet ready so I could train, and I asked him, I said, "Master Kim, could I please" I looked up all of these academies that I can train at so I can keep up, because I was getting really close to getting my black belt at that point,
Mhm.
and I said, "What do you think?" And he just looked at me and goes, "No, train by yourself," and, like, walked off like, "Oh, okay, well, good talk." So the thing with jujitsu that what I'm doing now is you can go into anywhere. There's a jujitsu spot in every city. But I also have to look out for these, because sometimes people like to, wrist lock you. They like to do all kinds of fun things to your arms, and I've got to be careful with that. So it's kind of like when I'm home, I usually like to go about 5, 6 days a week because that's I'm sure we can get into that, but that's like my therapy. Um, and I can't do that as much on the road. I'll probably go a couple of times. But there's also, gosh, there's so many things I like to do just to keep in shape. I'll do yoga. There's a specific thing. It's yoga for BJJ, or I'll
Mm.
do mat Pilates or just body weight work. I love body weight work. It's just, I think, I mean, look at the Roman, and all of the Greek soldiers, all of the all of the guys with Sparta, they didn't have weights. They just had
Yeah.
their body weight. They were just popping out squats and push-ups and things like that. So there's all kinds of stuff, you can do to stay in shape and be limber at 54, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a good point. It's never too late to get into fitness. It's never too late to get into health. I mean, I'm
Oh, yeah,
45 and I've kind of had this like tumultuous relationship with fitness my whole life where I'll be really good for 6 months to a year. I'll fall off for half a year. You got to get back on.
sure.
But body weight training, even the military, right? Not just North American military, globally, they've been
Yeah.
doing things like pull-ups, calisthenics, sorry, pull-ups, push-ups, dips, squats for
Yeah.
forever.
You can do it anywhere, and you can stay pliant. I mean, you can offset that with, calisthenics training, just to keep up your cardio and stretching. I think Pilates is one of the best things to ever be invented. It just helps your core. It just makes your whole body incredible. That along with yoga, you don't even have to go into a gym. And I like to make it where I don't have that option. Like, well, I would be able to go work out, but I got to go to the gym. If I keep that out of it, like, okay, all I have to do is just drop down on the floor and do some push-ups or crunches or something or stretch. That takes out the, I cowered myself into it. You know what I mean? It's like, come on, coward,
Mhm.
you can jump down there. You can do 50 push-ups or you can do 100. You can do this, and it's trying to stay, because I know if we're gone for 2 months, once I go back to start training at the academy that I train at here, I'm gonna get murdered if I'm not in
Mhm.
good enough shape. They will kill me. They are my good friends. It's like, "It's good to see you. You know we're gonna screw you up right now, right?" Like, "Yep." So, I gotta and that's the other thing is so many people I've talked to a lot of people that will say, "I wanna do jujitsu, but I'm gonna wait until I get into shape." Don't. Just go do it, You're never gonna be in good enough shape to do it, ever. It takes a long time for your cardio and just for your conditioning to get ready for it so you can just absorb the impact and the
Uh-huh.
mental stress of someone trying to, you know, choke you out.
Yeah.
It's very stressful, but I highly recommend it for for a lot of people, It's not for everyone, obviously, but
Mhm.
there are so many advantages to it,
I
I
I
just
wanna
I love it.
I wanna unpack it some more, but
Cool,
first,
okay.
let's, like, close the loop of this touring,
Yeah,
uh, and fitness. So, like, you're not drinking every day, partying every day, the band is getting, like, good sleep, a good regimen.
yep.
What are you doing then? Are you doing like, waking up and spending time by yourself in the morning to do some personal training before you get into the day?
Kind of, yeah. I'm a straight edge nerd, so I've been high once in my life, and that was like I was 16. So it was just, and I think my brother and I we have the idea that our parents were hippies. We know they were hippies, and we think they did so many drugs in the 60s and the 70s that it's just in our system, and it's like, this is nothing, But, I usually am an early riser, so, I like to get up and just get out, and if we're driving, from one show to the next, I usually just kinda get up and just stretch a little bit and have coffee, call my wife. That's kinda how I center and like to start my day. Hear my
Uh-huh.
wife's voice, then I'm good, you know? So I can't see her, so that's usually how I like to center, give her a kiss in the morning, then I go make us coffee. So this time I'll just talk to her, and we like to just start our days that way when I'm gone, And then I'll probably stretch or do a little bit some things. I'm usually just, you know, been in the bus, jumping around like in the bunks and stuff. And then depends on what is that day. I could go for a long walk or a run, or
Mhm.
once we get into the venue, just find a good place and do a really good Pilates or stretch or find a good academy. A lot of times, like if it's been a few days since I've trained, I'll see if there's some good academies around that I could go visit. Or sometimes there's friends I have in those towns who are already teachers that have their own schools and they've invited me out. So, it's kind of like what am I going to do today? It's kind of a little adventure,
Yeah. Choose your own adventure. That works out.
Pretty much. Yeah. And it's just kind of like a 30 minutes to an hour workout or something. It's easy to do. And
Yeah.
even on the road, Even on the road, it really is. It really is. It's not that hard as people think, you know?
I agree with you. I think that in life, oftentimes, I shouldn't even say oftentimes, more often than not, it's ourselves that get in the way. We are
Sure.
our own worst enemies. And,
Yeah.
you said it there. You can't wait to get in shape before you do this. It's no different with anything else in life. I
Yeah.
used the analogy recently about moving. I live in a retirement community in the middle of the woods by the ocean, and it's all older
Nice.
people around me, and it's really peaceful. And I could have waited a lifetime to do this, or I could have just done it now. And I chose to do it now because I
Yes.
had this realization that we are taught to live in chaos and seek peace when we should be in peace seeking chaos. And it was the
Exactly.
greatest thing I ever did. I feel so chill. I can go for a walk by the water. I can jump in the ocean. The only reason it happened is because I said, screw it. Let's do it.
And it's the same as some people, and I said this when we were younger, my wife and I, like, oh, we were wanting to wait until we had enough money to have kids, and it just ended up we never had kids. We just figured out, wait, we're we're not the parenting type, so we took care of that. But but a lot of people have said, like, you have to, if you want kids, you just have to have kids and you figure it
Yeah.
out. The same as anything. And that's a hard thing to go and just like, wow, I'm just gonna commit myself every day to working out, and I have to work, and I have to feed the kids, and I have to do all these other things.
Mhm.
So it's a little easier for me with my life is it's just my wife and I, you know. So we can carve out our time when we're gonna go from we live across the street from a park. So some days we'll just go for, walk for a half an hour to an hour, or on tour, what do I have to do? We have people, luckily, that move all of our gear, so I can't say that, "Oh, I gotta go move the gear." No, I don't. I have literally no out. There are very good professionals that take care of all of our gear. All I have to do is show up and
Yeah.
play bass. So,
Yeah.
I can figure it out, like, and it's also not like I eat fantastic. I do not, I my wife is a baker, an incredible baker. I came home from work yesterday. It was when I'm home. I work at a food bank here in Amarillo, Texas, and it's so I get to help people eat as well. So I came home yesterday from work, and she had decided to make like a foot long cinnamon roll loaf or something, just because she thought it would be fun. So that's another reason why I have to work out all the time because I don't say no. Or, oh no, I can't have that. I'm on a diet. No, I'm not
Taste.
doing that.
You can't say no to like a homemade, house-made, like
No,
wife-made cinnamon loaf. Come on.
because this weekend she made I think it was a double layer chocolate cake with like white chocolate frosting. So that's a real reason. I am not lying. Why I work out so much is so I can eat all of the stuff my wife makes. Because I don't like to be that guy. Like, oh, I gotta hold off on the sugar or all this. Like, I don't over overdo it, and gorge myself. But still, it's like, okay, I can enjoy what I want to eat, and all I gotta do is maybe, 25 to 50 extra crunches. I can do that. That's not
Absolutely.
bad. That's an easy price to pay.
I grew up with Eastern European parents who, believed everything in moderation. If you wanna
Sure.
have some of this, like, moderation, balance it out. You said something telling, and you said, "I start my day with a call or a talk with my wife to center myself."
Mhm.
Um, did your mindset or the development of the mindset around these ideas like centering or going with the flow come after you started to dabble in martial arts, or was that already there before?
Oh, that was there before. Well, look, when I was younger, my brother Zach as well, he and I started in Taekwondo. We're both in our early 50s, so we started with ninja movies. We wanted to be ninjas. And we were both had ADHD. So my parents were like, "Oh my god, we've got to put them in something." So they put us in Taekwondo, and we just, for 2 years ended up just kicking the shit out of each other, buying ninja stars and throwing them around. And we got out of that, and, then we got into guitars and stuff like that as well, and it was just kind of, always loved martial arts, I loved the centering, of it, but after we started playing and touring the world, when we did that, I also got married.
Mm,
So it was kind of like finding my wife was finding my other half, you know? And it was just, we've been together since 93. So this is our 33rd year. We're about to have our 32nd anniversary in December. So she and I were talking about this recently, and we've basically grown up together, you
yeah.
know, since we were in our early 20s. Now, at that time, we thought we were adults and we had it, we thought we had our shit down, man. We knew the story. We didn't know shit, but we thought we did. But we've grown up together, we're not, how we look at life, how we treat each other, how we treat other people, all of these things have been formed with the other one. It's not like it's been really nice. So it's just kind of we center each other whenever if we haven't been able to talk, the end of the night before we go on, I call her and tell her good night. Same thing, we're just very close. But like I said, it's the same as I am with my brother. We talk every day. It's just they're the two most important people to me in my life. So I like to be have constant access and
Yeah.
contact with both of them. As long as that's there, I'm good.
So your brother brought you a lot of, and correct me if I'm using the wrong words, but he brought you a lot of peace and grounding and maybe like balance in life, and then that was elevated even further by meeting your wife?
Yes, my wife, Shelly. Yes. Yeah, Zach and I, our parents had us pretty close together. We were called I guess it could be Irish twins, but
Yeah.
we're 18 months apart, so we're kind of like long Irish twins. I don't know how that works. We are Irish, so I don't know whatever that means, but, um But, we always had the same bedroom, We always we're about the same size, so we always wore the same clothes. We were always just connected at the hip,
Mhm.
We started our bands together. We're so happy that the other one is in really good bands. He's the guitar player in Rise Against, they were just in Vancouver. They're huge. But damn it, we wish we were in a band together. It sure would be fun. And we just
Yeah.
don't get that option to play together a lot. It's where if I'm home, he's on tour. If he's on tour, I mean, if he's home, I'm on tour. So it's just that's just kind of how we were raised to
Yeah.
always be there for one another. And then as soon as I met my wife, that didn't go away. We're still that same. Like, and my wife understood that way early on. She was like, she understands that my brother and I are this or
Mhm.
that. So she loves it, the fact that we are so close. It's awesome.
So going back to the martial arts, you said you started in Taekwondo. I think a lot of people do. I mean, I remember my brother and I being 10 years old and also doing Taekwondo classes. It's kind of like a good base.
It is, yeah.
Um, was that where you started to focus more on going inward and finding
Yes.
calm in life, or was it
Yeah.
your parents?
It was the martial arts that helped so much because, you know, um, I think unfortunately a lot of the wrong people will learn martial arts and they look at it as something to be able to hurt people or to be macho. And I think the actually before I started doing martial arts, I like my brother and I were raised with the whole point. Our parents' aesthetic was it wasn't brush your teeth. It wasn't, take your vitamins. It was don't take shit from anybody.
Mm,
When we got into fights with people, even if we got beaten up, my dad would be like, "That's fine. Did you take any shit?" No. Okay. Well, I don't care. So I would get into fights a lot. And since I started doing martial arts, full time, I haven't been in a single fight because I don't care if someone pushes me or if they call me a bad word or something like that. Okay, fine. I'm gonna let a bad word, something that someone said to me, make me, enact getting to an action of violence or something.
yeah.
That's if that's the case, then I don't need to be learning martial arts in the first place.
Mhm.
And I don't think a lot of people realize that. I think it's like self-defense is the byproduct, I think, of all the training that you do. I've met some of the best people in my life that I go do jujitsu with, and people all over America, I've learned, and I just have so many great friends, so many great professors, and they don't get into fights. They're the same guys as me. They're just getting up in the morning, trying to stay in shape, hanging
Mhm,
out with a bunch of, other nerdy dudes, the same as them, who are all 50 and 40 and 50, and just like, okay, this is the word, this is the hardest part of my day, trying to keep this 250-pound gorilla from, breaking my arm.
mhm,
Once that happens, nothing can phase me that, for the rest of the day. Like the hardest, the crappiest part of my day's already happened.
yeah,
And I think it's just, you just don't engage in those kind of things. You're really able to just like, okay, man, you're going through something. I'm good. I'm not going to engage in this. It's
uh,
um I mean, of course, if there's bodily harm involved, that's one thing. But just towards myself, I just don't get into arguments, or if somebody calls me something, or anything like that. I've found that I'm calmer with just daily relations, period, with anyone, as far as um you know, not violence, but just, arguing with people. I don't have that knack for it. I don't care. Like, okay, that's fine. I
100%.
don't it's not in me to prove my point to you, to argue, amongst, I mean, even in band discussions, because we will get into discussions and not really heated arguments. We're not that kind of a band. We're all in our 50s and 60s. We don't yell at each other. It doesn't
Mhm,
it doesn't make any sense. We talk to each other calmly, but we can get after each other here and there, very, very, very rarely. And when we do, I've been okay with like, all right, I don't care about winning this argument. That's fine. And seeing where they're coming from as well. It's a lot of it has allowed me to be, more present instead of just, oh, hey, this is whatever, and yell at them to prove my point. Who cares?
mm,
I can see their point better and then agree with them and go, oh, yeah, okay. You know what? I was being kind of a dick there. All
yeah,
right. I need to step back and reassess some things. So that's what I've gotten the most from all of that, which has been just
you
it's helped me immeasurably.
good for you. I totally agree. I think that one of the things that's often misconceived about or misinterpreted about martial arts is that there's whether it's boxing or something else, that it's about being strong and being able to fight. It's not. It's
Mhm.
about being able to protect yourself. If
Mhm.
anything, it's about being able to have more calm and more resilience in those moments to
Mhm.
decide if you want to even engage or not.
Yeah.
It sounds
Yeah.
like you've taken a lot of that and you've really adapted it on a day-to-day level where you say, "This isn't about me, this is about you, so why would I step into your shit?"
Yes, and also being compassionate. That's, I think, another thing that you learn is compassion. If you're in an argument with someone, like, well, wait a minute, they might be having a crappy day. They could just be coming up on you and they're having a bad day, or even an argument with a friend or something. It's like they might be going through something that I don't understand. So instead of make it worse, how about just accept that and like agree with them?
Uh-huh.
And, it's a lot of things you're learned in martial arts. I believe, like, in a friend of mine took Wing Chun, and the first thing he learned was to put his hands up and loudly say, please leave me alone. I do not want to engage in any violence with you. I want to, please just go away from me right now. Have
Yeah.
his hands up loudly where everybody could hear. That was the first thing he learned in that class. And that's what I think a lot of it is. It's just that ability to walk away.
Uh,
Your ego is if your ego is that, small and fragile, where you have to just engage in violence at the drop of a hat, then you really shouldn't be having that in the first place, and learning and being and training and in being in a martial arts environment. The same as people who have guns here, in America. Don't even get me started on that, with what we have. And I have guns, but they're in my house. They're not on me
yeah,
because this isn't the fucking Wild West.
yeah.
And
Well, I
we're all
totally
humans.
but you're saying something really important there, and this applies to so much in life, whether it's guns or martial arts or education. It's about understanding things, respecting things, having good rules or a good relationship with something so that
Mm,
it's used in the right way,
mhm,
not in the wrong way. You mentioned just now martial arts and putting your hands up. I always thought that the guy who beat someone up, there's something to be said about that.
mhm.
But the guy who could have beaten them up really easily but didn't,
Yeah,
that person's even higher in my book. When you
yeah.
see those scenes in a movie where like, "Do you know who that was? Oh my god, he would have destroyed you. You're so lucky." Those guys I like and I respect so much, and, I don't know why, but I thought of Ryan Vader. I don't know if you know the name. He's a
Oh,
MMA guy. He was UFC. He did that whole UFC, reality show and then eventually did a bit of UFC fighting. But he was always like this huge all-American wrestler who learned martial arts, and he was like the humblest. He would just destroy people. And then afterwards, he was so appreciative. He was like
yeah.
teary-eyed. And I just saw him recently in one of The Rock's latest movies. The Rock's like portraying some MMA guy, and Ryan Vader is one of I don't know what it's called.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm
it's
talking about?
the smashing machine.
Yes, that's the one. So
Okay,
Ryan
who was
Vader is like the other actor, and I was so happy for him. I was like, "Oh my god, this is what happens when you're a good
wow.
man and you
Yeah,
like, stay true to your morals and your integrity, then opportunity finds you, and now you're doing a
yeah.
huge role alongside The Rock after coming from what, just wrestling?"
Exactly. Well, but I think you learn certain things, and it's, um, with that, um, whenever you learn how to defend yourself,
Mhm,
if but the majority of professors that I have in jujitsu, the main instructor is called a professor because it takes 10 to 12 years to get your black belt. So that's what they're considering that you're a professor in college, which they are. Their knowledge is incredible.
mhm,
And they will always say, hey, if you get into a fight and someone says if they have a knife on you, um, or a gun, I hope you guys didn't come here. So you want me to tell you how to get rid of the gun or all of that. Cause all I'm going to tell you is what I would do. Give them my wallet and walk away. Cause I have a wife, I have kids. This isn't a Chuck Norris movie. This isn't some martial arts fantasy. This is real life. If someone is,
mhm,
you know, going to threaten you really with a knife and a weapon, it's don't be the hero. Like, oh, here's my wallet, take it. I'm gonna walk away from this thing. I don't care. Like, oh, I could do this move. No, I couldn't. Mm-mm. I couldn't. Even regardless that we're trained for a lot of stuff like that. Who knows about in that instance when it comes down? And I'm not gonna take that chance. My wife would
yeah.
kill me if I got killed during something like that.
Well, it correct me if I'm wrong, but it's about choice, right? Like,
Yeah,
if you have weapons and tools and you're forced into a situation where you have to use them, then thank God you can use them, but you're
sure.
not gonna actively choose to put yourself in a dangerous situation.
No, no, and that's the part of it, and I think some people do, um, it's their ego, and I understand it. As a younger man, I get that. It's being being a the whole masculine macho identity bullshit that a lot of people go through. I was, I went through it as a kid early until I kind of figured it out,
Mhm,
and I would get into fights and then wonder why I did that, you know? Couldn't explain it, couldn't understand it, like there was something wrong with me, and
mhm,
that was one reason why I started wanting to do martial arts, not to get better at fighting, but so I wouldn't fight. That
mhm,
was the whole point. I didn't care about being able to be a better fighter. That wasn't my point. I just was like, there's something going on in my psyche, why I'm engaging in fights. Why do this? Why be so, just reactive towards people? Why engage in violence so quickly? Didn't make sense.
mhm,
So I had to figure out and go and correct that. And I kind of figured out like if I have the ability to inflict harm upon someone, I'm not going to. I'm not that person, and I kind of figured out who I really was. Like, okay, the guy that was short circuiting and fighting, that wasn't me. That was something I was going through for some reason. I don't know what it was.
mhm.
Probably some therapy would help that, but That's a
I
choice. I will make that choice, but
yeah,
it's this way, it's kind of like, and doing jujitsu is kind of that it makes you more humble, it makes you real because it
mm,
doesn't matter what's going on outside of the world, and there's a lot of crazy shit going on outside of the world every day, but I have a lot of friends that don't necessarily have the same beliefs as me. I don't have the same beliefs as them. We all know where we stand on certain things,
mm,
um, but every one of these guys will hug me every morning, tell me I'm their brother, that they love me, and let's go eat. They don't give two shits who I am, what I am. They think it's cool that I'm in the band, but they're like, "That's great that you're in the band. Now I'm probably gonna fuck you up. You understand this?" Like, "Yeah, you're gonna try," you know?
yeah.
And as soon as you bow onto the mat, everything's gone from, that you were going through or what's going on outside. That's outside. This is real whenever we're stepping onto the mat. And not that it's real like in a combative thing. It's just that's where we're focusing on. We're focusing on each other and what the professor's showing us at that point in time. And we crack up. I mean, in the morning I'll be going to the 6 o'clock class and we end up just kind of making fun of each other, and laughing at one another. But I will say this that every time I step off of the mat, I'm never the same person that I was when I stepped on. So that's kind of why I love to go. I always just shed a little bit more bullshit about me every time I go. And I think that's why I'm addicted to going. And it doesn't matter just at my home gym. It can be any gym anywhere, Chicago,
Mhm.
Richmond, New York, San Diego. It doesn't matter. Everywhere, it's just I shed a little bit more, and I love that.
You said 2 really amazing things there that I wanna kind of explore a little bit more. One, specifically masculinity, one that I think applies to humanity in general. But for you, martial arts, you made a joke about therapy, but the martial arts is your therapy because
Yeah.
therapy is the same
Yeah.
thing, whether it's mental, whether it's, active therapy, like going to the gym by yourself and having your headphones in, talking to a
Mhm.
therapist, going to martial arts. That is all about going inward, finding the gunk, and trying to expel it to be a lighter, better person.
Yes. I do, however, I do think that therapy and talking to someone is there's no replacement for that, you know? I think that's everybody needs that. I think it's a
Yeah,
fantastic tool, and I think finding a good therapist, have someone to talk to that understands you and can help you get rid of those things
mhm,
is fantastic. It's a great thing to be I mean, a lot of it, you have to find the right therapist,
um,
and someone that, I guess understands you or that you can understand them, and it's the same as in anything. It's finding the right instructor.
yeah.
Some people will go to a couple of different jujitsu gyms and they don't find the right instructor and they end up quitting. And when it could have been fantastic for them. But I do use it as therapy, but I also use music as therapy.
Yeah,
I use, date night with my wife as therapy, hanging out, doing our normal shit that we do, watching our
no,
stories at night, seeing my band, that's therapy. I haven't seen those guys in probably 4 months. And so laughing with those guys, because we will have, while we're on tour, we're basically in a fart tube. We're just locked into that thing for 2 months, man. It sucks, and, it's being in it that long, we're all older guys. We have like our, the things that we do every day, we have that.
you have your
Keep
routines, your
Thank
ways of
you. Routine. Jesus Christ. It's a long day today. But, and after the end of the each, like before we play, we do for like 30 minutes before we go on. It's either in the bus or in our green room. It's just us. No one comes in. It's us listening to music and laughing our asses off. Doesn't matter what it is. We just get in there and we start cracking up. And we have a horrible, dark sense of humor. It takes a thick skin to be in my
yeah.
band. It really does. The shit we say to each other. And a lot of I've had people go, "Do you guys like each other?" Like, "Yeah, of course. It's my buddy. I love him." And like,
Yeah.
Are you sure? But
Yeah.
we do, and, like, after the show, we will go back and hang out, like, in the back of the bus and just, again, listen to music and just talk, and
Mhm.
that's therapeutic, just kind of some other things will come up, like, "You know what? This happened," and we get to talk to each other, really about real issues about that point and stuff that's bugging us, not with the other guys, but just
In
things
general.
that are bugging us overall, like, you just wanna talk to your buddies about, and to
Mhm.
just get it off your chest and just talk. And communication, that's just all we have to do is communication. It's not
It's
hard.
it's it's funny how fundamentally it's also easier. I was a sociology major, philosophy minor in university, and, I mean, I grew up reading, like, Plato and Socrates and Aristotle and all this stuff, and
Mhm.
I remember my professor talking about, man, I don't remember if it was the Spartans or Romans or who, but there was this warrior class, and they were the elite of the elite. Like, we're talking masculine of masculine, but the point, and I think we as society have lost this, and I think we're maybe starting to come back to it. This is what we're talking about with, toxic masculinity, is that these guys were the most ripped, burliest dudes in the world, but they were soldiers by day, philosophers by night, and half of
Yep.
their livelihood, not livelihood, their being was wrapped in this concept of understanding thyself and communicating with others.
Yep. I think that was the majority of Greek, culture, you know? Um, really fascinating when you think about that, is Alexander was Greek. Look what he did, you know?
Yeah.
Yet just with the thinking that he had, I mean, he was constantly absorbing new religions, constantly allowing everyone else that they conquered, like, keep your religion, but just pay taxes. Other than that, we don't care. They weren't
Mhm.
conquering people, and he wanted to learn new things. I think that was, they were far more than just, you're right, like, it looks like toxic masculinity. Oh my God, these guys were incredibly, just destructive warriors and all of this. Like, they were thinkers, they were musicians, they were
Mhm.
poets, they were philosophers.
Yeah.
So it's, I love a lot reading about a lot of the Greek and the Roman, ideologies and
Mhm.
things. It was just kind of, they had an idea and then they would go and put it into practice, or they would at least experiment with it.
Yeah.
They like to fight. There's that, but
But like you
you
said,
know?
that it's not necessarily about trying to slaughter your opponent. There's this
Mm-mm.
idea of fighting in the sense that you're exchanging energy with someone in a almost like fraternal way,
Yeah.
even if you look at martial arts, the root of most martial arts, correct me if I'm wrong, is in the East, and it comes from a lot of thinkers. It comes
Yeah.
from an idea of balance, of Zen, of, whether it's Buddhism, Taoism, Shinto, like the list goes on.
Yeah.
And that's not just about aggression, it's the opposite.
Yeah. It's they don't want you to fight. You
Mm,
can that's again, is they also understood that kind of figuring out yourself, you could do through these physical
yeah,
exercises. That's kind of like one of the best ways to do it. And then other people would get more into the meditation and things of. I mean, it's the same as if you're just going to go work out. That's a physical thing, but
uh-huh,
you're not worried about, oh, wow, I'm going to get ripped. That's a byproduct. At that
yeah.
moment in time, when you're trying to bench press 100, 150 pounds, I don't know, I can't bench press 150 pounds. So no way in hell can I do that. But it'd be awesome if I could, but I can't. But you're worried about getting that barbell and that weight up and in the correct manner, you know?
Yeah,
Doing that and like, wow, I've got to do 3 sets of 8. Okay, cool. In the correct manner, efficient, and with the right style, the right form, all of that. At the end of it, after doing that for a month, then you're ripped. Like, oh, okay. Well, that's pretty cool. So it's
mhm,
kind of like the same thing with martial arts. You do this punch this many times and all of that. Through that, you're learning the right way to do things. So, kind of like this oneness and figuring out yourself is the byproduct, along with self defense, from just
uh-huh,
doing these basic punches,
yeah.
or different roles with people, different drills, learning how to triangle someone, learning all of these things, you know. You can also learn a respect for humanity, I
Yeah.
think, and trust. I trust everyone that I roll with. They could easily snap my arm, you know. If I don't tap enough, they could keep going. They could choke me out. They could do all kinds of things to me, but I'm literally putting my life in their hands and they're putting theirs in mine as well, you know. And that's a heady thing. It's different than whenever you're just doing punching and kicking with someone
Mhm.
because you can put on pads, you can do all of that, and especially when we trained in Taekwondo, you don't go 100%. We go 130% in jujitsu, but all you gotta do is just tap 3 times and like, "Alright, that's it," you know? And it's kind of, you get it all out. You leave everything on the mat, you leave it
Mhm.
or on your friend with your sweat, you know? But
I
and again go ahead, please.
No, I was just gonna say I love the word that you used, the byproduct, I was gonna wrap up the masculinity thought by saying, like, similar to this guy, Ryan Vader, that it's about a balance, right? Like a balance of force and finesse, of beauty and beast, so to speak. Like, I'm a big dude. I'm 230 pounds. I'm 6 foot. I
Nice.
have been through a lot of shit. I continue to take a lot of shit. I'm good. I know what my weaknesses and strengths are,
Yeah,
but it's in knowing my weaknesses and being a emotional guy who
yep,
knows how to cry, who can have a very hard discussion about the loss of his daughter with his team, that
yep,
my partner finds the most attractive in me. And those are also my strengths, right? Like
yep.
the balance of those things. And I think that's what has been lost over the last 100, 200 years that we're starting to re-find again, which is this beautiful symbiotic relationship with ourselves of soft and hard, loud and quiet.
I think that's an incredible way to look at it. It's the yin and the yang, the soft and the hard, the loud and the quiet.
Mm.
But I think that word masculinity is kind of the root of a lot of evil, I think, with
Yeah.
wars. And what we're looking at these days, it's ego, it's masculinity, instead of
Mm.
just being a human, you know, just because I'm a man, I have to be masculine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see, I mean, being from Texas, that's how, we were raised, you know, through no fault of anyone. It's just that's what it was, you know,
Yeah.
and it's trying to get out of that and not kind of fall back into those just dumbass, you know, masculine tropes. It's like what is masculinity to you, you know? I
Yeah. It feels like just another one of those words that unfortunately have been like co-opted and redefined over time. And where if you go back to this idea of the warrior, the Greek, the
Mhm.
Spartan, they weren't sitting around worried about if they were masculine or not. They were just doing the thing. They were just doing the balance. They wasn't
Yeah.
like I'm better than my fellow man because I'm stronger, this or that. We all
Mhm.
had differences, which is what I'll let you comment, but I wanted to transition into this
Mhm.
idea of humanity because, like, fuck femininity and masculinity. Let's all just be humans.
Exactly, and it's just like, let's be a good person to our surroundings and try to uplift people
Yeah.
and recognize when there's an injustice done, and now maybe that's part of it. Like, "Oh,
Mm.
well, there's an injustice done to me. Okay, I would like to correct that. How do I correct that? With violence or with words? Can I use my brain?" And that's what you're talking about the Greek soldiers. They were more than happy, preferable to use their brains because it was easy to use violence, but they
Yeah.
had to go to war, you know? But I think it's just, you know, trying to get rid of that, you know? I think that's what so many people think this. If someone pushes them, that is an injustice done upon them. Sure, it is. It
Mhm.
sucks if someone just violently pushes you for no reason or calls you a dumb epithet, you know what I mean? Or a
Yeah.
dumb word. But you have the choice to go back to them.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, okay, yeah, there was an injustice done. So how do I react? And I'm not saying that if you engage in violence, if someone pushes you, that you're wrong. You're not wrong. I don't think so, you know? It's sometimes that's enough for people. Like, okay, I'm good with words or whatever you don't call me, but if you put your hands on me, that's a whole 'nother thing.
For
I
sure.
understand that, you know, and I'm sure and we're all people, we're all humans. We can have this incredible discussion right now and be high-minded, but in a few weeks, I could be dealing with some asshole that's just gonna like, "Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and beat up on this old nerd," and he pushes me. What do I do? I don't know, you know?
Yeah.
I would love to say, you know, I could walk away and like, "Hey, man, that sucks. Screw you," or whatever, "Get away from me," you know? Hopefully, I would do that, you know?
Mhm.
I'm, 80% positive I would do that, but there's that dumb little idiot part of me that could probably go up and throw hands and just get completely destroyed,
But
unfortunately, you know?
I well, I agree with you, and I think that that is everyone is always trying to have, like, a black and white answer for everything when most of life
Oh,
is gray, and, I
yeah.
remember that I learned in high school that we're humans and humans are fallible, and to be human is to err. And the more things we learn, whether it's reading books or therapy or martial arts, the better chance we have of maybe not making that poor decision. But that doesn't
Yes.
mean we won't still
Mm,
make a poor decision. I bet you Tony Robbins, who I respect and admire, has had many instances in his life where he's like, man, how did I get triggered like that? Like
yeah,
it happens. I like the comment you made earlier about you don't know if that person's having the bad day
sure.
because I use that too. And what you do is if you can choose to end that energy or perpetuate it. So like that person comes up to you, they cut you off, they flip you off, whatever. You could reciprocate that or then push that outwards, or you can stop for a second and say, I wonder if he got fired and he's
Yeah.
just upset. I wonder if his wife, left him this morning. What I don't know what his deal is. Why assume and then throw hate back?
Or he's an Arsenal fan and they lost the other day to Man City and he's in a really shitty mood like we were. So, so
That's funny.
sorry.
No, no,
COIG.
no.
We're huge Arsenal fans, my wife, and that's another thing. It really is. It's we use so many things as therapy, though, and and talking about different forms of it. I know our record that we're doing that we are about to go release is was therapeutic for my singer. Therapeutic for all of us because we were coming out of the pandemic.
Mhm,
A lot of people didn't make it out of the pandemic. With their lives or with their sanity intact. It was
mhm,
hard on a lot of people, and he's talked about and I'm really happy that he's talked about this because he was pretty much a private guy, Vaden is, and he's talks about this every night about suicide hotlines and going to therapy and things because there's quite a few songs on the record that deal with some really heavy shit that he was
mhm.
going through and that he didn't really talk to us about. He's not the kind of guy that's going to call and go, "Hey, you want to talk about this?" Although we're always open for that.
Yep.
That's his choice. But a lot of it he gets through the music. And he was wrestling with some things and was able to kind of come out on the other side with this record and being around us and his band and doing this together. So I
Mhm.
think and we all got to. So we were just so happy to be able to play music again. We all
Yeah.
thought it was done and my god, you couldn't do any martial arts. You couldn't do anything. So it was I got really good at push-ups for that year and a half,
Mhm.
and squats and jumping jacks and stuff like that just to keep my brain from going crazy.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people did a lot of reassessment. So out of that, it was finding new things for entertainment.
Mhm.
So my wife
Well,
and I found football, real football.
you talked earlier about, your buddies and how someone commented, "Do you guys even really like each other?" I think that's such an important thing though, because speaking about mental health and self-harm and things like that, I think oftentimes people everyone's journey is different.
Mhm.
Horrible things happen to people, and that's
Sure.
that's understandable.
Yes.
But I also grew up with a crazy group of guys, totally different ethnicities, religions, backgrounds, and when we got together, all we did was rip on each other. And it was really horrible, and people would probably say the same thing. They'd probably throw in
Mhm.
racist and a bunch of other stuff too, but it wasn't because we loved each other, and we also created an environment that we knew we were safe in to the point where as much as we ripped on each other,
Mhm.
as soon as someone was down financially, mentally, emotionally, they knew that they could talk about that in that space, and I think that martial arts and a lot of these other, uh,
Yeah.
venues afford that, and that's what I want us to do as a society is get back to a spot of, "Oh, your daughter died? Don't sit in your bed and wallow by yourself, like, it sucks, do your thing,
Mhm.
but feel comfortable talking about it, feel
Yeah.
comfortable getting it out, because as you and I both know through therapy, that's how you move through it."
Yeah, and it's and I think, like, with my band, we have each other's backs, like, I can say whatever the hell I want to my band. They can say
Yeah,
whatever the hell they want to me, and but if anyone says anything to me outside of the band, they would be like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa. No, no, you gotta shut the fuck up. That's my boy. You can't say that." Like,
yeah,
"Wait, what? You guys are just clowning on him." Like, "Yeah, we can. We're his band. We're his buddies. You can't say
yeah,
that. You can't say that shit." You know?
yeah,
And that's what I love. It's not a gang, but we do love each other. We are it's like a it's family.
um,
But yeah, and I mean, then again, we were also locked in a studio for a month with Steve Albini, who had the exact kind of, uh, oh, I guess, sense of humor
yeah,
as us. And I think Steve I don't think a lot of people really understood Steve because Steve was very acerbic, very, witty, incredibly funny, but he had a dark sense of humor as well,
yeah,
incredibly dark sense of humor, but when we met him, we were like, "Oh shit, this guy's one of us," you know?
mhm.
We understand him, and he understood us, so it worked perfect, and, we just screwed with each other all day long every day in the studio with that guy, all day long. The horrible shit we would say to each other
Well,
that Go ahead, please, go ahead.
Steve was like a I'm a huge Nirvana junkie,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I definitely wanna talk about Steve, and I think
You
this is a
got it.
great segue. We've done a great job of talking about everything but music. Um, if we as a society stop focusing so much on the division and what, like,
Mm,
our ego
yeah,
wants and what we think is right, and instead just talk, what we'll really quickly realize is we're all the fucking same, you know what I mean? And we all have
yeah.
similar goals, hopes, dreams, aspirations, humor, etcetera, and that's what I wanna drive towards. But for the sake of this short, lovely chat, let's talk about music,
Done, you got it.
martial art. So we established that martial arts mindset, your amazing, relationship with your brother, all of that kind of came first, and then music came after. So I'm not gonna ask you why bass because you have a podcast about that, but, like, why music? What was the song, the band, the moment where you're
Oh,
like, "Oh my god, music."
The Who. It was The Who, easily, and, my dad, Don, was a disc jockey. Pardon me. So, we were raised with music. My parents were hippies, so they were always playing Led Zeppelin or Steely Dan or The Who, or
Mhm.
I remember when we were young, I remember watching this movie with all of these naked hippies and all of these people with, big hair and jumping around on a stage, and it was Woodstock. My parents are watching that, or they were super counterculture. SNL came out, they were there. Monty Python, that was it. We watched British comedies. So it was just they raised Zach and I with a really good idea of what good art and good music is. So we were just surrounded by music constantly. We would go up to my dad's station when he was working at night and request songs we wanted to hear. But it was The Who, pretty much. I believe it was Pinball Wizard, that or Baba O'Reilly, one of the two. I'd have to ask my brother. But seeing them on like TV or whatever kind of made Zach and I wanna play. I wanted to be a drummer at first. Zach always wanted to be a guitar player,
Mhm.
but I just don't know if my dad wanted to buy drums because we also had an apartment, so he was like, "Why don't you play bass?" I'm like, I don't wanna play bass. It's boring, like Bill Wyman and then I mean, I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. So my dad was like, "Okay, I understand that you're hesitant because bass sounds boring. Let me play you this." And he played me, Long Distance Runaround, Yes. And
Okay.
so then I was like, "Wait, I can do that?" He goes, "Yeah, you can do that." I mean, I can't fucking play that song that well, but, I mean, I would like to. But, like, I can aspire to do that, and that was definitely like, "Okay, fuck, I can do this," and then just getting into, Getty and Rush, that was the next one right after that. Hearing all of those guys and hearing Entwistle and The Who, and it just kind of worked for Zach and I, we would just teach each other songs. He would learn something, I would learn something, we'd go back and forth, and we were a team, you know, always doing a team. So it was
That's
just
awesome.
kind of we knew we weren't gonna get into college, we couldn't afford it, and it wasn't gonna be from a scholarship, from academics, that was
Mhm.
never gonna fucking happen. So, music was
Music.
it. Music was it's not like, "Oh, we're gonna try this, and then we'll see what fall back on." We had no fallback plan. There was none, it was, "We have to do this. We've gotta make sense of this. We have to figure it out and do it."
Yeah. But I mean, like, school is not education. Education is what remains after you've forgotten everything you learned in school. Is that
Nice.
Einstein?
Mhm.
And you're clearly a, well-traveled man, a humble man, a hardworking man. You got a book, you got a podcast, you've got 20 albums under your belt. It sounds like the balance is the key, and the balance is found in, born in Texas to hippie parents and martial arts and music. That's the balance.
Yeah. I mean, there weren't a lot of hippies in Texas, but we were able to, be born to the 2 that there were. I mean, I guess, like, but again, my mom and dad weren't hippies, like peace and love and all of that. They were more long hairs. They were
Uh-huh.
just counterculture, and they were hippies. They believed in peace and love, but, again, my dad was, like, 6'1", 6'2", 250 pounds, took 0 shit from anyone.
Big dude,
So,
yeah.
if we were talking about if somebody pushes you or whatever, if somebody pushed my dad, he would put him in the hospital. He wouldn't go, "Oh, man, maybe I should think about this." Nah, that was not my dad.
Yeah.
So, that's what I'm trying to get away from. So, nothing against that. Again, I'm not disparaging anybody that does that. It's what you wanna do with your life. I don't wanna be that guy anymore.
Yeah,
And trying to get that done through music was kind of a good thing for
yeah,
us. We can kind of just it absorbs our lives. It's everything. It's how we make our living. It's how we communicate with each other. It's how we communicate with the world if what we wanna express and get out to people. That's the best way to do it, I think.
I agree. Yeah, my grandmother always used to say chacun a son goût, which is French for everyone has their taste. There's nothing wrong
Nice.
with having something different. I think what's important is to constantly have movement. I think stagnation is the worst.
Yeah.
Have movement. If you're going down the wrong road, at least you now know that that's the wrong road, and you're going to only continue to get better and evolve and smarter. It took me 2 marriages that ended for me to sit down there after the second one and say, hold on a second. I'm the common denominator. What am I doing wrong? How do I get better and fix myself so I can show
Yeah.
up better for my kids and for my
Yeah.
team and whoever it is? So never be scared to fail. And in fact, like embrace the failure and just keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. People are so scared, like, "Oh god, I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna do this wrong." Like, yes, you are. In fact, yesterday, our professor was telling us, he said we'd gotten done rolling, and he goes, "Listen, I don't," and he's from Brazil, so his English is pretty good, but he's also more of someone that's more of high-minded concepts instead of, "Today, I'm gonna show you how to do a, triangle choke." It's
Mhm.
not that, it's more it's hard to explain, but best teacher I've had. But he was saying, "Hey, everybody, whenever you get done and you think, 'Oh my god, I suck,' you know you know what? You do. Of course you do. You should be sucking right now."
Mhm.
You know? He goes, "I suck compared to where I'm going to be." And he goes, "But who cares that you suck? Who cares that you fail? Look at where you are now from whenever you were when you started. You have to look at your journey. You're so
Mhm.
caught up in things like, 'Oh, I gotta be better in front of the professor,' and all this." Like, no, you don't. You know, basically embrace the suck, you know?
Yeah.
Really, we have to embrace people are so goddamn, they're just caught up in, like, trying to do it perfect. Like, it's okay, fail. You're never gonna get better unless you fail, you know?
Yeah.
You're just gonna come out of the womb or just come out and do something amazing. No one's Mozart. There was one Mozart. I'm sorry, you're just not even he screwed up at first, you know? I think
Yeah.
it's when he was 5, but that's beside the point, you know? That's not
Yeah. Well,
you know what
I
I
agree
mean,
with
though?
what you're saying, but there's so many people that achieve such a high status in life or within their, whatever they're doing, that still think that they could be better, that still think
Sure.
that, "Man, I'm not as good as that other person." It's normal. We spend so much time looking forward and looking upward instead of looking downward or inwards, you know what I mean? It's like the
Yeah,
analogy of man where we spend so much time trying to figure out space, but we've barely explored our ocean. It's like, dude, that's right here."
I know. It I like, I with my singer, Vaden, he's one of the best songwriters I've ever encountered, and he's incredible, and there are songs that we've had that we haven't recorded or that we just have demos of that are amazing, amazing lyric content. The chords are amazing, the structure's amazing, and, you know, we won't use them, like, why? Like, I can just do far better." Like, what? It's songs that some of the best songwriters would fucking kill to have, you know? And
Mhm.
this guy is just like, I can do better, man. I don't know." Like, "Okay, alright," you know? And every damn time, he will do better, but that's I see that, like, okay,
Yeah,
I think, "Oh, wow, this is a great song. Let's play this." He's like, "No, no, 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 no. We're not done. I've got far better. That one's not too good." Like, "Okay, cool. Alright." I don't I would've gone with just that, but that's why I'm just the bass player, you know what I mean? And not to be that way. I'm not being but I'm not a great songwriter. I can write music out there. I
mhm,
love instrumental surf music, but I'm not a great songwriter conveying what's inside here, you know, in the correct words so people literally all over the world can grasp that and see something in it and, you know, it conveys something to them and it can
yeah.
be part of their own. You know what I mean? Like Vaden can, you know? I don't have that ability.
I just finished reading a book called Ikigai, which is this Japanese principle about finding your purpose in life,
Wow.
and that the
Ditto.
people that find their Ikigai tend to live the longest because you wake up every day knowing exactly what you're supposed to do and meant to do, and I think it not only is that such an amazing concept and so real because I'm living that now and I feel so differently today than I did 3, 4 years ago. But that ties back to the idea of masculinity and humanity where it's like, who cares if someone's stronger than you or a better
Yeah.
songwriter? Because you probably have something that they would kill that they could do. Like,
Yes.
make homemade cinnamon rolls. I've never baked in my life. I would probably burn the house down, but your wife obviously crushes that.
My wife's amazing. Yeah. It's well, and you know, you put that into music. There are the bands who want to do everything. You know, they want to be, well, we're this and we're that and we're these kind of things. I think the musicians and the artists who got their point across and who had
Yeah,
the best, longest careers are the ones that found what made them unique and they just kept doing that. Sure, the Ramones and AC/DC made the same record over and over again, but that was a great fucking record, man, you know? Really was. And they didn't have to like, well, in the '80s, they decided to put some drum machines and synth on Back in Black or some you know what I
yeah,
mean? They didn't have to mess with that stuff, you know? They
yeah,
believed in themselves, they believed in what they were doing, and they were confident in that, like, "Nope, we're gonna do this." Everyone else can kind of, you know, fudge the issue and, you know, kinda cloud it up with a lot of bullshit that doesn't matter, you know? And
yeah.
you look at that, like, so a lot of bands figured, "Oh, we gotta do this because that's cooler," or, we've done that a few times, and I'm not saying we, I'm saying other bands have gone, "Well, we've done our thing. We gotta show people that we can grow." Why? You know?
Mhm.
That's just me.
I agree with you. I love growing. I love failing. I love being able to go to my kids and be like, "I was wrong."
Yeah.
And owning that, and then
Yeah.
telling them why I was wrong, and showing them in real time how to approach something when you're wrong. My business partner, Lance, one of my best friends, he always says, "Fail hard, fail fast," and I live by that all the time. Like, I am not
Yeah.
scared of failing at all now. I will start a podcast 9 months ago and just dive into it and see what the hell happens, and here we
Yeah.
are having a conversation, right?
It's you have to go out there whenever I die, when I'm on my deathbed, I wanna look back and look at the stuff that I failed at, you know,
Yeah,
or the things that I at least tried, "Wow, that book I wrote, that was a fucking stinker, but I figured out how to write better, and then the next one was better." Or
yeah,
that surf record I did, that 3rd one, that's, hopefully that will just sink to the bottom of the ocean, but maybe the 4th and the 5th is better, but you don't know unless you try.
yeah,
It's we grew up with a lot of great musicians, my brother and I did, who were scared to get out there. They were amazing, but they were kind of just scared to fail. And Zach and I weren't scared. We knew we were going to fail, but we were
mhm,
like, okay, we could fail or we could do really well. And we
yeah,
did both. We had a couple of bad failures, we really did. But we learned from those and made our successes far better. We learned what not to do.
yeah,
And you don't learn that unless you fail. You don't learn it unless you fall on your ass, you know?
yeah.
I don't no one just comes out just being incredible. They just don't.
No.
Even Michael Jordan, even
Mhm.
Messi, even Thierry Henry, even he had his mischances,
Yeah.
So, just
It's
saying
fu
go
People
ahead,
think
sorry.
no, no, not at all. I think people think that, especially through the lens of social media and television, that it's easy and
Oh,
it's
God,
so and everyone would do it. It's not true. It takes
no.
so much effort and failure to get there. I started to really pay attention to finances and investment and crypto, like, just around the beginning of the pandemic. So it was like late 2019 or 2020, I started to really get interested in that. My age, probably, other things, having kids, family. And the more I started to follow different people who have been successful entrepreneurs or investors, the more they all had the same story, which was, I have lost hundreds of millions of dollars. I have gone bankrupt. I have totally messed everything up. And they all said the same thing. The best way to learn is to lose, man. You
Yeah.
remember that, it stings, and you get better the next time.
It makes you it's playing gigs. All of our first gigs were horrible, No one had great gigs coming up, and that's unfortunately, I think it's something that people aren't gonna figure out, um, if they make their careers just on YouTube. I know I sound like a boomer, of course I do, but I but they aren't. They're not gonna figure that out because, there was no edit. You can't edit and just like, "Oh, I'm gonna record this, and then once it's perfect, I can hit, send, and then it's out there to the internet." And that's fantastic. You get to reach people.
Mhm.
But what you don't learn is how to sit there and sweat your ass off, because there's only 10 people in front of you, and you've got to make them happy for the next hour and a half to 2 hours,
Yeah.
or the promoter, who hates your fucking guts, wants you out of there and is pissed off that they got to give you 5 grand,
Mhm.
anything. And it's just it's, uh, I think you need those real life failures. You need to have people boo you. You need to have clunker notes on stage.
Mm,
I I had one of my first tours with the band, we were playing Lollapalooza in 2008, and it was during a part, one of our songs called Away, and it's just a long bass part. That's it. It's bass and vocals. It's all it is. And out of the clear blue, I'm in front of 80,000 people. We were going on right before Rage Against the Machine, so the place was packed. And Barack Obama was there also, so the place was also shut down. He
mm.
hadn't he hadn't became president yet, but he was the nominee. Sorry, excuse me. And while I'm playing this song, my amp just goes down. Like well, it was my pedal. So I just had to keep playing. Our tech fixed it and it wasn't that bad, but I learned just keep playing. It's
Yeah,
okay. Just keep playing. If I had just stopped and gone, oh, dang, oh, well, shucks.
yeah,
No, you don't do that. You can't do that because that's all people are going to remember. But if you just keep going, like, I got it, there's nothing happening here, then no one's gonna make a big deal about it. Like, okay, we all fail, we all screw up. You just gotta kinda go through it and just not make a big deal, not make a big fuss about things because
yeah,
everybody's human, like you were saying. It's
yeah,
just about humanity. And trying to navigate that the best logical way with the most heart, I think, and compassion for other people. I think
that
so.
love and logic, that's that love and logic piece of it.
That's it,
You brought it up.
it is love. I mean, again, hippie parents, love. It is about love, it really is, and it's love for yourself too, and
Yeah,
people forget that. They're so invested in giving love to everyone else, they're not giving it to themselves. They're not setting their boundaries. They're letting themselves go, you know,
mhm,
and they're not taking care of themselves whatsoever, but
yeah,
that has to you can't love someone else if you don't love yourself, you know? How are you going
yeah.
to be able to do that?
It's funny, you said something there about the editing and the YouTube world, which is ironically kinda like where we are right now in this YouTube
Sure.
world.
Yeah.
But I think that's why a lot of people are gravitating towards podcasts and long form content because this is gonna be unedited. This is going to be real, and if
Yeah.
I say the wrong thing or misspeak, then I can be held accountable by the internet army, but that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That is the beauty. It's not about perfection. I mean, I have this tattoo on my forearm. It's a Japanese Enzo,
Nice. Yeah.
and it's the philosophy of wabi sabi as well, which is like imperfection is the perfection, so to speak. That the beauty is in the imperfect, and we cannot just put a filter on everything and say that's my reality. Just live your life,
Yeah.
warts and all.
It is. The internet is an incredible thing, and it's been a curse all at the same time to show you what you think your life should be instead of just
Yeah,
living your life. It's just entertainment. Get on, get off. It shouldn't be your life. And I think so many people get on like, oh, my life should be this. I should look like this. I should do this. I should believe this because and it can be manufactured according to your likes. And it's
yeah,
like, okay, no, maybe I don't want to be that way. You know what I mean? So there's so many great positives. I think there are more positives to it than there are negatives, but the negatives are pretty powerful.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
so.
I
They
agree.
really are. And it does allow us to communicate. It does allow some kid and from where I'm from, Sherman, Texas. This kid might be wanting to play his songs and he's going to come out and he can put his songs online and have 1,000,000 to 10,000,000 people really connect with that kid that he normally wouldn't be able to do.
Mhm.
Then he's gotta figure out how to play in front of 10,000,000 people, but have fun with
Separate
that.
issue. We'll
Not
fail
the
towards
issue,
that.
not the issue, exactly. I'm befuddling, I'm messing it up. That's not the issue. The issue is he can reach people. That's what we're
Hell
talking
yeah.
about.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me pivot to music for a little bit before we
Sure,
wrap up because this has
shoot.
been the Donnie and Gonda mental health hour is really good, and we'll do it again.
Please, please.
It's so funny that you mentioned 2008 because that was the year that you joined Toadies, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
And so, like, can you imagine joining the band and then just like that, you're playing in front of 80,000 people?
No, it was that was incredible. I don't even think they
Surreal.
expected it. They expected it to, just kind of do, like, a couple of tours, maybe a year. They didn't expect that I don't even think they expected that we would still be doing it this
Yeah.
long, after. But the response has been incredible. People are like they really love the albums, and we're even more excited about this record because it was just the writing process, and demoing, and then being able to work with Steve, was just incredible. It really was because we were all huge. I mean, I'm a huge Steve fan. Pretty much
Yeah,
every record I saw that it would be if I saw his name on it, I would get it just to
yeah.
listen to it, to hear what he did, and to have the interactions that we did with him, it was just kind of a it's silly to say dream come true, but it really was, you know? And
Yeah.
listening back to the album of what we were able to do with it is just incredible. It's the best thing we've done, you know, I think. Well, and
Your,
so are the other guys.
well, I mean, some of the press material that came with, this new album talks about, like, how it's a dream come true, and obviously Steve's a legend in terms
Yeah.
of what he's done in his world. I mean, just Nirvana alone, PJ Harvey, like, there's some of the names that he's worked with. Um, but it sounds like members of the band, maybe specifically your front man, had, like, a lot of stuff that they got off their chest with this album, with
Yep.
album 8, Charmer, and it
Yeah.
sounds like it was heavy. Do you think a lot of that release came from the fact that you guys, are so connected as a unit? And also, I believe that this was the first album you kind of recorded live off the floor. Do you think
Yes.
so there's,
Yeah.
like, there's more of you in it at the same time, like, it's a healing experience.
It was, and it was also, you know, like I said, during the pandemic, we all went through a bunch of shit, you know? We were dealing with our own shit, and Vaden was able to deal with it through songs and convey, you know, love songs, songs about his parents. You know, his dad went through, uh, Alzheimer's and just horrible. You know, Vaden has talked about it, and it's horrible to watch, and I feel bad that he had to watch his dad. You know, I had to do something like that when our dad passed when I was 19, Zach was 17. To watch your father go through that is horrible, you know?
Yeah,
Um, and he was just being able to write about this stuff. And I think too, it's kind of a celebration of we're taking everything back, you know? We
yeah,
own the record. We weren't on a label. We were making all the decisions. We were doing everything ourselves. And to go in and have it come out so good. You know, I hate to pat myself on the back, but it's really good record. I love it. And I think, just to share that with his band, like, "Okay, I'm going through all this shit, but hey, my band understands this, and I've got this vision that I don't even really have to tell them. They already pick up on it because we're all so in sync with one another," you know?
yeah,
And, it was just a good way for him to kind of exercise a lot of fucking demons and things
yeah,
that were screwing with him and with everyone, and I think a lot of people are going to be able to see themselves in a lot of these songs,
yeah,
or I think that's the best thing with his songs is he's asked people have said, "Hey, is it about this?" He goes, "I don't know. Is that what it is to you? Does the song mean that to you?" Like, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, then that's what it's about." "Well, what did you write it about?" He goes, "Doesn't matter what I wrote it about. Matters what you think it's about,
yeah,
because that's what it's speaking to you. That's a good song, you know? Why ruin it? No, it's about this and this and this. That's no, don't do that, you know?" And he
mm,
doesn't do that. People are able to see what they want within it. Like, "Okay, cool. Sounds good to me. Am I right? Don't know."
yeah.
You know? And I think there's a lot of that on this album.
What's it like? I mean, this is kind of a little bit of an out there question, but those are my favorite kinds.
Sure.
Um, you know, you're brothers with these guys since 2008, roughly.
Yeah,
What's it like? And when we're close with people, we can kind of see things oftentimes more easily than they can because there's this whole subjective versus objective reality, you know?
sure.
What was it like seeing a friend, such a close friend, start to exercise some of his demons, to use your words, and get that release, get that catharsis, get that healing? How did that impact you and the rest of the band?
Oh, it made us happy for him, you know? It was, 'cause um Vaden can be very private, you know? He
Mm,
doesn't like to burden anyone with what he's going through. It could be really hard, but I've talked to him a lot of like, "Hey, if you have something to say that you want to say to me, please say it." You know? Don't worry about what my reaction will be or how I feel. My reaction is my reaction, you know? if there's something you have to get off of your chest, and I tell everybody that,
Mhm.
but especially him, because when I joined the band, we didn't know how long I was gonna be in the band or how long the band was gonna be around or anything, and we've all gotten to know each other, we've gotten closer over time and really figured out, "Wow, this is a really good guy. I love playing with this guy. I love to have this guy as my friend," and opened up to each other a lot more than we thought we would, and I just wanted him to be able to express to me any authenticity, any honesty that he wanted to, without
Mhm.
fear of reprisal, of that I'm gonna, you know, start yelling or screaming or pout or whatever, and that's the point, like, if I do, who gives a shit? You have to get it off your chest,
Yeah.
and I think seeing that change and seeing all of that is and seeing the growth, and we've all done that to each other. We're all pretty honest with one another. If there's
Mhm.
something bugging us, like, "Hey, can we go talk really quick? I think I wanna talk to you about this." Like, "Sure, you got it," We're very open. We don't scream, we don't yell. We're just very matter of fact of like, "This happened and kinda sucked. Can we talk about it?" Like, "Sure, you got it," A few
Mhm.
times I have done things that I didn't even know I was doing. I was just in my own head, but he didn't like or, it's him or even some of the other guys didn't care for them, and they were like, "Hey, we want you to not do that or to kinda think about this," or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, wow, I had no idea that I was being that way or doing that, or even if I was just like kind of in a bad mood and bringing everyone down, they wanted to talk to me about it, So that's kind of where we are these days. And it's really helpful. It's definitely helpful within the spirit of the band, but
Mhm.
way more important than the spirit of the band is my friends' individual mental health, all of
Yeah.
them. Rez, Clark, and Vaden, everybody's mental health is fantastic because
Well,
the band is the band. We won't be together at a point, I'm sure, but I care more about those guys, than I
mhm.
do just our collective. Like, oh, well, the band idea is doing great and our whole collective thing, so that the train will keep on rolling. No, I care that my buddies are doing good
Yeah.
mentally, that they're okay, that everything's all right with them. That's far more important to me, you know?
Totally agree. That's a beautiful thing, and I appreciate you sharing that. Uh, Couple last questions.
Sure.
I would love to stay on music. We've talked about so many amazing things. In the spirit of sharing anecdotes, talk to me a bit about Steve. We talked about mental health and mindset and humor and razzing each
Oh,
other,
god. Yeah.
not taking things so seriously. Because you know what, I had a thought and I forgot it and it just came back, and that's like this idea of being defensive, right? Like so often people will
Okay.
confront us and say, "Hey, listen, what you said there and there really upset me," and immediately we get defensive, and I'm not like that, or this is about. It's so much better when we just say, "I'm sorry," or we listen, and then we maybe reflect on ourselves and then come back to it. It sounds like you guys are doing that, but, like, what
Yeah.
was it like with Mr. Albini?
Steve was like I said, Steve had and has a reputation for being acerbic, and I think rubbing people the wrong way, probably some of it probably intentionally because he was in the upper echelons. He dealt with, you know, the biggest people in the music business, period,
Uh,
Look at the records that he did. I mean, he worked with Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, for the love of God. He told us some great stories about that, but I don't I think Steve was Steve, and you had to have a thick skin because Steve was gonna be honest. If you asked him really what he thought, he would tell you. So prepare, you know, because 'cause you're gonna get the exact you may not get the answer that you want because he will be
uh,
brutally honest because he doesn't care. That's what he's there for, to be, you're paying him for his opinion.
yeah,
And I think to us, we love brutal honesty. We're when it comes to music, we're very honest with each other. Like, what do you think about this part? No. Or, hey, did I play that good? You could do it a little bit better because we all have to believe in it. So there's no hurt feelings of like, oh man, he said I could play that better. What?
uh,
If it's not good, we have to do that, you know what I mean? So, one day, like, we're it's one of our songs, I think it's "Damage," and I was playing tambourine on it, going back and forth and making sure that it was in time, and we're listening back to the song, and I asked Steve, and I said, "Hey, is that sound in time?" He goes, "What?" And I said, "The tambourine." And he goes, "It's fucking tambourine. Who gives a shit?" And then it turned away. Everybody starts cracking up. I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Who gives a shit?" But I think other band members, other bands would probably get their fucking feelings hurt, like, "Oh, that was rude." Okay, maybe it was rude, but that's just how he was, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And it's a small thing, it's fucking tambourine. Who gives a shit, But it's so many people, you go into these studios and you think, "Well, I'm paying for this, and I'm paying for that guy, and this is gonna be the
Mhm.
best record ever, and you've gotta, you know, bow down to me at everything and make sure that I'm happy," and we are not that band. We do
Yeah.
not like having our asses kissed whatsoever. We like brutal honesty, especially when we're creating an album, and whoever's involved in that album, if it's us and an engineer and a producer, then they're the ones whose opinions we care about. Everyone outside of that group can go fuck themselves. We don't care what they say,
Yeah.
They can tell us it's great or it's not or whatever. We just don't care. And it was just the 5 of us. Steve engineered everything.
Yeah.
And so we would ask him what he thought, and he would be brutally honest, like, you might be able to do that one better. Cool, let's go do it, you know? And we
Mhm.
listened to him, and it was just, he was more of a producer than he liked to let on to people, I think, He gave us a lot of great ideas that a producer would do, and we'd be like, you're producing." "No, I'm not. I'm just giving you an idea that's that I kinda thought was cool." We're like, "That's producing, dipshit. That's what it is." You know?
Yeah. I I
But
l
he
I love that mentality because the same thing applies to mental health in general, is like,
Mhm.
there isn't time to like, for pleasantries and placating, you just have
No.
to be
Yeah,
real. Because if you're not
yeah.
real, you don't heal, it's that simple.
That's fantastic. If you're not real, you don't heal. I love that. And that's what I did learn from that whole thing is Steve was very real with us. And I think he in that way, and that's how I look at it, if you're honest with someone, you respect them. That's
Yeah.
showing
Yeah.
respect and not like good enough. I think that's the term in Whiplash, good enough is the worst thing ever, pretty
Mhm.
much, from that movie. And they're right. It's like, "Oh, that's pretty good." No, not pretty good, not good enough. It has to be right or it has to be great?
Yeah.
And if
It
it wasn't, why bother, you know?
mhm. I mean, I could only have hoped and dreamed to have met someone like Steve, but, it sounds like not only was he honest and real, because that's his job, he's trying to get
Mhm.
the best out of, people when he's with them, but he was also just holding up a mirror saying, like, "You might not like what I'm saying, but
Yeah.
you're not saying it to yourself."
You can either like what you can leave it if you want, but, and we would Steve was also a few times Steve also loved the immediacy of the take. He didn't like 10 takes or anything like that. He liked no more than 2 or 3.
Mm,
And there were quite a few things that we would overdub. I think we did basically the basics all together, but there would be some guitar things that we wanted to overdub, and at first we were like, "Oh shit, Steve's not gonna like that." And we got in and he goes, "I don't care. You can do whatever you want. This is your record. It's I will do whatever you need to do. So if you wanna do some overdubs, please do overdubs. If you wanna retake something, please do it." He said, "That's how I used to be. I'm not that way anymore. Just don't do 10 of them."
yeah,
You know? But he didn't want perfection to mistakenly get in there. Um, he wanted there to be life within the take. And if
yeah,
there's some mistakes, and there are some mistakes on the album, but we left them because overall it was fantastic.
yeah,
He was just he was more emotive than people think. Some of the things he said to us individually were very encouraging and just became a really good friend. And it just sucks that we lost him so early, really. We were even with him 3 weeks before he passed. We had done another recording session with him for another thing that we're gonna release, and, literally it was we were talking to him like, "Alright, we'll see you in a few months. We'll come back and touch this up." Like, "Okay, we'll figure it out." 3 weeks later, passed,
Wow.
So it sucks. It really does suck, 'cause he was like I said, we had found our guy, like, "Shit,
Yeah.
we're never going to anyone else from this point,
Yeah.
because he just got what we wanted to do immediately.
There's so much pain and yet wisdom in that story in the sense that, life is fleeting, that
Yeah.
he said no more than 3 takes, like, I mentioned that the wabi-sabi, that the imperfection is the perfection, it's
Mhm.
organic, it's real, but there's
Yeah.
also this Japanese appreciation for impermanence, like, things are fleeting, and you have to be present and appreciate this because it might be gone in 3 weeks, you don't know. So enjoy the now.
Exactly, and don't worry about the perfection.
Yeah,
Perfection happens over time, or getting it right happens
yeah,
over time. Where you want it, it comes from failing. You can't
yeah,
just do it right out of the gate. You just can't. You
yeah,
gotta fail, you gotta screw it up a lot to figure out the right way to do it, correct, and that's enjoy the process. It's what we have to do is just enjoy the
yeah,
process of everything, like, or embrace the suck. That's the only way we get better and not
yeah,
getting bummed out about it. Like, it's just we're humans.
mhm.
That's how I look
Um,
at it.
me too. Last thing before you have the hard job of wrapping us up with a very nice, wisdom to share with
Oh,
everyone. So I'm giving you a warning. I usually don't give a warning, but you have to do
wow.
that.
Okay.
Uh, I like to talk about mindset, mental health, lifestyle, who you are, and then obviously the music, but then also at times, as much as possible, impart some advice to people within whatever industry, in this case, music. Spaceflight Records, you've done 20 albums, you've been around music since I think the early 90s, if not, if not earlier. Um,
Mhm.
why that label? What about that label? Like, the music industry is not what it used to be. I
Right.
hope that it continues to evolve and get even better. Um, talk to me about where you are as a musician and a creative and why you chose this partnership.
Well, we were at a very good advantage being done with this album because we owned it. So we paid for it all ourselves. Um, and we could go with whoever we wanted to. We weren't beholden to anyone. So it took a while to get this record out. And we were talking to a couple of other labels who were good, and they would offer some fair deals, but there would always be a wrinkle. Either we wouldn't it was just one of those things where like, this just doesn't feel right. I don't know if we want to be tied to this particular organization, for this record. It means so much to us. And it's the same as failing, literally. We
Um,
had a couple of failures with that kind of put it off. It would have been out a while back if we had just decided to go with the first one, you know? And we'd probably be looking for another label at this point. And Spaceflight came about through a mutual connection with our manager, Tammy. Another lady turned her on to Spaceflight, and she had an incredible discussion with them. And then we all had a discussion with them. And the thing about it is that Brett, that owns the label, was a sound man for Jack White and Widespread Panic, and I believe John Cougar Mellencamp, a lot of people. So he's been doing it for, I think, 15 to 20 years. He's been in the trenches. He's been in the small, shitty, smoky clubs surrounded by people. But he has a love for music and he had
mm,
learned enough about different labels and things. Brian, the guy that's the A&R, is the bass player for The Sword. I believe Rick, who takes care of sales and media, he's another touring musician. So it's a lot of that is the fact that it's people who were put in the same situations as us. It's you go into a lot of these meetings with people who are just business. They know business really well, but they
uh-huh.
have a hard time trying to talk to music. They put our music into phrases like content and numbers and all of this. And I understand that's what you have to do. But when you go through the kind of shit that we went through for years, especially if with the pandemic, is our career gone, or whatever else creates great albums, whether it could be strife or whether it could be joy or whatever. And you do all of these things and you fail and you do all this crap. And then some dickhead in a suit says, well, I think that's going to make some good numbers here. Like, no, 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 fuck you.
Yeah.
You've taken all of our hard work and our soul and our everything that makes us what we are as musicians, and you've made it into a one and a zero, or like a percentage of something. You've put it into the shittiest denominator that you can think of.
Yeah.
And they weren't like that. They didn't care. They gave us a incredibly fair, the best deal that we had found. Not only did we like them and their ideas and what they were wanting to do, but from a business standpoint, it was the best that we had encountered. But they definitely didn't talk about numbers and they didn't put it into bullshit terms like that. And we all know it is a business. So I'm not being high minded and like, gasp, you're talking about money? I can't. We're talking about music here. No, I understand that shit.
Yeah.
But to talk to these people and that's all that they care about, it just kind of rubbed us the wrong way, or how they wanted to promote us or things like that. And I'm sorry, Spaceflight,
Yeah.
they had the exact same ideas that we did. They even came up with better ideas than we thought,
Mhm.
and just how they ran their business. The majority of their label, a lot of it is nonprofit. So they will take local artists, even from around the Austin area, because they're based out of Texas. They're doing good work. We got to keep Texas cool. We're trying. So it's kind of hard to do, but we're doing what we can these days.
We need more
Uh,
hippie parents.
we need more hippie parents. We need something, man, than what's running this place right now. I'll tell you that. But they they're fighting the good fight. They're trying to give back.
Mhm.
They're not trying to become tycoons. If they make profits, they put that back in to discovering other people. So someone, like I was saying earlier, this kid in Sherman who writes these great songs or whatever, they could hear that kid and go, wow, all right, we're going to give you 15 grand for an album. And then we'll just put out your record and see what we can do. And then who knows, that kid might not have had a start without them doing that.
Yeah.
So that's another reason why we wanted to go with them, because some of the money that we make for the label is going to go back into other artists who don't owe anything. Like
Mhm.
here's money. You
Yeah.
don't owe it back. It's just go do your career. Do what you need to do. Go make the world happy. You know, live. Be a
Yeah.
musician. Do this. So that's another thing. So we get to something that we make that we're with the Charmer, profits that they can make from that will go back into either the Austin music scene or someone in fucking Poughkeepsie or whatever who has a great techno record. That's who knows what's going to happen, but that's could be their lifelong dream that we're helping out. So it's just a fantastic aesthetic, I think, to run a label, and just the guys there, everyone that works for them, they love music. They just love being in the business. They love going to see bands. They love that we're part of it as well, that we're just as excited. We just couldn't have found better partners. And I'm glad that we had those other failures, because then we wouldn't have come to this that we had now. I think if
Yeah.
we'd have gotten it right out of the gate, it wouldn't have been right.
Yeah. I love that, and I'm really happy for you and the rest of the band and for the label. You talked about the percentages and the artist. It's profits and product, they can live together, but
Mhm.
if there's one word to sum that up and this entire conversation is it's balance. You
Yeah.
have to find that middle point of artistry and business in order to, I think, have, a good relationship and success. You can't focus on one or the other, but there's that middle spot.
Yeah.
Um, I I'm a very grateful person. I try to wake up every day and just be thankful for all that I have. So I'm
Yeah.
thankful for your time, our almost
No.
hour and three
Thanks for
quarters.
having me. Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate you. This has been great.
Yeah, amazing conversation. So we got an album out on the 1st of
Yeah.
May. We've got a US tour, and then I'm sure more tours after that. You're gonna try to come to Vancouver so that I can see you.
Oh, I would love to. We were there years ago. I think when I turned 40, I know, in Winnipeg at the, Burton Cummings Theater. So,
Okay,
for all of you Guess Who fans, I love the Guess Who, but, um, so it was us and Social Distortion. We were touring with them. A
cool.
fantastic tour. And the Canadian audiences loved us, and we haven't been able to get back, and so we've been talking about that. We wanna come back as soon as possible, so I think that's one thing we're trying to figure out. Instead of just staying in America, go up to Canada, go down to South America, and you guys like just good rock and roll.
Oh, yeah.
You know what you're doing up there when it comes to music. I mean, you have National Hockey Night. How can you not be an amazing country when you have National fucking Hockey Night, you know? Yes, I'm a Stars fan. Let's not hold that against me, okay? But I do love the Dallas Stars. But you have National Hockey Night. That's just a great country right there. And you have some of the best bands ever to come out and talking about giving back. I think Spaceflight basically do exactly what the Canadian government did to promote bands and promote Canadian music. So I think they use that as the model. So
Cool. Very
you have a
cool.
great country.
You know what? It's not bad.
It's not bad. I
I'm
love it.
happy with that.
I love it, man.
Did
Great
you
place.
did you say that it was The Who that got you into music?
They were the first ones that I mean, like, listening to Entwistle on, Pinball Wizard, just his bass playing,
Yeah.
on that, or in Baba O'Reilly, or we would watch, The Kids Are Alright, that movie,
Mhm.
and watching Entwistle stay stock still, and Townsend's doing his windmills, and, Keith Moon's throwing his drumsticks around, and Roger Daltrey's doing his microphone. But John Entwistle isn't moving anything except his fingers, and he's the loudest one and doing the most out of all of them. There's more
Mm,
attention coming to him for what he's playing than anything, you know? So having that ability, he has that power. He's just playing. He doesn't have to jump around the stage or anything like that. It's all focused on him from just
uh,
playing that bass. It's like that spoke volumes to me that you don't have to go around and do all that and look at me, look
no,
at me, look at me. I'm not that person. I'm just not wired that way. But to be able to have that power, with bass, it's like in bass, our absence is noted. Good
yeah,
bass playing, our absence should be noted pretty much, and our entrance. So if the guitar comes in and out, that's kinda cool, but when the bass comes in and out, you feel it here. And
yeah.
guitar, you just kind of hear it there because it's hitting you in your ears. Bass hits you in your abdomen, in your heart, and your soul. That's where the bass hits. That's where it
That's
should be.
like, it's like that guy Ryan Vader that I referenced. It's that
Yeah,
quiet power. It's just
that's why
I
we're
can
all yeah.
try, but I don't need to.
All the
I
bass players I know were all quiet until we get around each other, then we just fucking nerd out with each other, but most bass players are nerds who just are like, "Alright, I'm a nerd, I'm gonna stand in the back and play, you guys go do that shit, no one's gonna notice me anyway," and that's fine, I don't want anyone to notice me. That's
yeah,
good bass playing. Don't get noticed.
you are where you wanna be. I
We
listen,
are the support jock of music, or
I
the
I
jock support.
I only brought up the Who because I thought it was hilarious that you started with the Who and we're ending with the Guess Who.
That dude, both of them great band. My parents knew great music though. I mean, God, the guys when we were in Canada, we were leaving Vancouver and going to, it might have been we were going to Edmonton, so we went through the Canadian Rockies, and the whole time, our drummer, Mark, had a Guess Who playlist that we listened to the entire time, and just incredible. I've always loved the Guess Who, though. I
Yeah,
mean, Burton's voice is incredible, the songs were incredible, just then the band was amazing. So, just saying, you got all the good ones. you know?
Well, we have well, I wouldn't say all, but we got a good amount. You guys got some great ones too.
I mean, your great ones are far better than our good ones, so I'm just saying. That's me.
We'll agree to disagree, because
Alright, done.
otherwise
You got it.
this is how the war started, we're fighting over music.
No shit. You're gonna win it. If it's a music war, you're gonna win. I'm sorry, in my book, you're gonna win it, so I'll tap out.
Why why don't you do what I told you earlier, which is, sign us off with some sage advice for the people watching?
Oh my god. I think we've kinda said it. I just think, like I said earlier, you have to, um, A, give up your ego, and listen to what someone else is be a good receiver. Communicate, with people. Be a great communicator with someone. It's hard to do, really hard to do, to be honest and to tell people your feelings.
Mm,
But I think, over time, you get better with it, I probably people probably think I'm a mushy dickhead, you know? I know the guys that I do jujitsu with probably do. I tell them I love them all the time or whatever, like, "Hey, let me know if you need this," and they're probably like, "Ease up, dude," But we're all going through shit, and they're all the same guys like me, and I want people to go and that's the thing with it's weird within that group. Yes, we're masculine, but we all tell each other we love each other, And it's
mhm,
like, that's not a lot of people don't do that, but we have
yeah,
a certain thing from all of the training with each other. So I think that would be the best thing is just communication. Embrace the suck, you know, fail, whatever you want to do. And same with communicating. Your first couple of times communicating with people, you're gonna get it wrong. You're gonna say the wrong thing until you figure out the right thing to say, you know?
yeah,
But I think, leading with your heart, not your brain. And I'm saying that to myself as well. I've got to lead with that and just kind of be an open wound for people and be able to accept it. And if they walk all over it, then they walk all over it. That's okay. You can't let that change you. I don't think so. And become embittered. It's not necessarily sage advice, but it's just, it's kind of just from what I've learned in life, is I do things not so I can change. I do things so they don't change me, you know?